When it comes to parrots, if you have a small flock and you want to add one or two more, how do you do it? Like, you know, you can have several in a cage, but how do you add one or two to an existing flock? Hi, I'm Kaylin, the author of the Parrot Bliss Bond. Please be sure to get your copy on Amazon. Don't eat my necklace. I have 22 species of parrots. I love parrots. Parrots are my bliss, even though they like to eat my jewelry. And in this video, we're talking about specifically adding a few more green-cheek conures to a green-cheek conure flock. Hi guys, welcome to my channel if you're new, and if you're used to hanging out, thanks for being here. I'm sure you already set your preferences so that YouTube lets you know usually when there's a video the next day. Today we are answering a question for someone who has a small flock of 3 green-cheek conures and they want to add one or two more. When it comes to adding parrots to a flock, 2 things we want to keep in mind. Number 1, the species, and number 2, the age. Number 1, species. With a budgie, man, you can add more budgies, and I've never seen a budgie do anything other than be sweet and loving. Budgies are like the Dalai Lama. Peace, man. Peace, goodwill, phenomenal. Then there's other parrot species like Indian ringnecks, where it's the opposite. Everything you see is my space. If you're in it, I'm not responsible for what I'm gonna do to you. Okay, she laughed. Seriously, that is some of the way some animals and some parrot species are. In other words, it becomes their territory, their domain, and they have to defend it. I mean, the truth is we as humans do it too. This is my house. If you come in, I'm not gonna be happy. 911, there's someone busting into my house that I didn't invite. There's no parrot police, so they have to police themselves. So with an existing flock, adding more parrots, number 1, has a lot to do with the species. Generally speaking, adding more to your flock when it comes to green-cheek conures is a piece of cake, but we'll talk about how to do it. Number 2, again, like we said, is the species and their ages. So the green-cheek conures, they are 4 and 5 years old, and that's not too bad. It's, you know, it's about 1/4 to 1/5 of the way through their lives. So they are adults, but green-cheek conures tend to bond well with green-cheek conures. With green-cheek conures, I feel like that's a species where it can be done. It's going to be relatively easy compared to some other species, especially. Not as easy as a budgie or a cockatiel, and there's always exceptions, so you always want to watch and make sure. But generally speaking, a flock of green-cheek conures is not bad. If I didn't already tell you, these are the babies that we recently got. Some moon and suncheek, and mint, and 1 high red factor that we'll be putting with one of the suncheeks. And so we're hoping that next year we're gonna have some really beautiful babies. But they are growing up together, so they're totally fine with each other. They're perfectly fine, they're a flock. Even adding a parrot to their flock wouldn't be that easy, even a green-cheek. Why? Because they're already established, they already know each other, and even though they are not 4 months old, I think they're about, you know, somewhere between 2 and 3, they're already gonna be a little bit like, wait a minute, I don't recognize you. And if they can have one other member in their flock, or you can see they have several, you know, it doesn't matter. A new member is a new member. It doesn't matter what size the flock currently is. So when you're introducing any species together, one of the things you want to do is, number 1, put them in a common place together. Number 2, give them their own cages at least to start. So common space. A common space means that we don't have them meet and greet in anyone's cage. We actually go somewhere neutral If you have a play area set up, that's perfect. A perch, a play area somewhere where it doesn't belong to anyone. It's no one's territory, so everyone can feel comfortable. It's kind of like when you and I go out to the mall or to a restaurant. We understand if people are eating at the table next to us and the table next to us is maybe close by. Like, we're okay with that. We're not going to call the police. So it's a mindset where this is an area that I don't have to be territorial. Actually, maybe I can make a friend. So in that common space, what I like is when everyone's flighted, it means that when two parrots see each other, if they start to interact and someone's not happy, they can usually fly away and feel safe. That empowers your parrot. It allows them to make their own choice. It allows them to come together as they choose, and that's going to let them relate well and come together well. Generally speaking, Green-cheek Conures are very friendly with other Green-cheek Conures. They do pick one mate, but they can have a flock. So it's possible that the Green-cheek Conures will just kind of magnetize together and be friends. And I would watch them before I put them in a cage together, although they're probably fine because they're Green-cheek Conures. But I would watch them and let them have a few more sessions where they're out together. The more time you can give them out together in the common space where you can watch them interact, you can make sure that everyone's happy, no one's being hurt, no one's feet are getting nipped, no one's feathers are being pulled, no one's going kind of like the typical cat fight. That's pretty darn extreme. That's like beyond danger, Will Rogers. So if your parents are doing that, break them up, and I would take them to different rooms. That didn't work. I don't know if it will work. Like, I've only seen that once. And it happened just the other day with my Pyonis. My hawk had lunged at my Pyonis. It was pretty bad. So I don't expect them to ever be friends. And I'll put a link in case you want to watch my Pyonis. And I think I forgot to put the link in yesterday's. Anyway, so that common space, we're looking for no nasty dancing. We're actually looking for like beak to beak. Oh, like a greeting. We're looking for maybe preening each other, maybe feeding each other, maybe, eating something. Oh, what have you got? And, I mean, they are relating well. They're getting along. They're being sweet together. I'm seeing if anyone's being sweet behind me to show you. But that dish is in the way because there's some guys up there. Hi. Hi, Peachmint. Hi, Peachmint. That's my sweet, friendly Peachmint. Okay. Number 2, when you feel like on common ground they did well, we didn't have nasty cat fights, we had really sweet interactions, that kind of thing, which again, we can kind of expect with Green-cheek Conures. Then, depending on how comfortable you are, I have seen some parrots. I had a pair of kikes that came together like Romeo and Juliet. I was like, psh, I hope Juliet still loves me, because they just were like magnetized, match made in heaven. So I've seen pairs like that, but most pairs aren't going to be magnetized like that. They aren't going to be Romeo and Juliet. They're going to fall in love, but at their own time, in their own place, not now. So if you have the not now, then one of the best things to do is, number 1, make sure you have lots of cages. I have spare cages in my garage. Why? Because first of all, when I'm ready to put the 2 into a cage together, or if I have 3 and I'm adding 1 or 2 to the flock, and I do think it's better to add 2 at a time, then we put them all in a neutral cage. Neutral means no one's been living in it. It's completely clean. At least they haven't seen it for a little while, maybe a week, maybe longer, but maybe the person has been taken out and put back in. Like, it's just no one has any claim to it. We put them all in together. When you put smaller species, I can't speak to larger species because I haven't done a lot of combining of larger species, other than like one-on-one. Parrotlets, budgies, cockatiels, lovebirds, Green-cheek Conures. When you put them kind of like 2 flocks together, because if we have 2 new ones and we have 3 old ones, even if the 3 old ones are 4 or 5, even a little older, and the 2 new ones, I want them to be at least 8, 9, 10 months, because those are going to be the maturity ages, and 8's low, For Green-cheek, it's more like 12, probably 12 to 16. So ideally, these little guys, hey, the little guys, the younger guys, the new members to the flock, the two over here, they can be in communal times together. I'm okay with that in a communal space. Hey, stop it. Stop, Peach Mint. They can be in a communal space together, but I'm never going to put them in the same cage until these two guys are at least 8, 9, 10 months or 12. And I would do 8 if I, and I might even do 6, but probably not 3 on 2. If when they were in that communal space, they were really like harmonious and maybe not quite Romeo and Juliet, but really getting along, then I would feel comfortable. If not, I wait for our 2 young members to be basically adults, and then I would put them all in a new cage together and observe. However, I almost don't need to observe, but I do, because at this point, I've seen them in the communal space time after time, and I'm like, they're getting along. I'm not having a problem. For example, these guys, they really are getting along. Something happened. You do have some confusion with, there is some pecking order. There is an alpha. There is some, hey, you stepped on my foot. Hey, your nails came and grabbed my wing and it hurt. Rah! You know, there is some of that. And so you kind of have to watch and discern between just no big deal, pecking order, you stepped on my toe, versus what starts as aggression and escalates to a nasty cat fight. And nasty cat fight is like, that can end in pretty bad injuries, in death. So you really want to be able to discern. And discerning can be really easy and it can be really hard. When you know what you're looking for, it's really easy. Like these guys, you could see now they're there. Those are the 2 that were quarreling. I don't know what happened, but they're fine. It's not, there's no aggression anymore. Whatever it was, it's gone. If it weren't gone, I'd already have an injury. I would have already have to have gone in and, oh, no, it's this guy and that guy. Anyway, I would have already gone in and broken it up. So, you just kind of watch. Like they don't, when they're just quarreling, they're just trying to establish relationships, or you stepped on my toes, there's no real injuries. It's more like, and you've heard that. If your bird bites you, that's one thing you could do. You can speak birdie language, relate at their level. When they hurt each other and step on each other's toes, so to speak, they go, ah, ah, you know, listen for when they do it to each other, and then try to mimic it back. And don't just be like, ah, be like, ah, you know, because it's telling them that's what they do to each other. You're not hurting them. You're not doing anything, but you're giving them sort of this energetic, ah, like you didn't like that. You're letting them know, I didn't like that. You're not, again, you're not hurting them. You're not doing anything physical. You're not doing anything except you're giving them a little vocal and a little energetic whack. Because you're saying, hey, you whacked me. And, you know, that's how you're saying it, because you're like, whack. That's what you did to me. I just want you to know so you don't do it to me again. And they pretty much listen to each other, you know. Like, have you noticed, if you do have a flock, for example, of Green-cheek Conures, they don't bite each other. They might bite you, but they don't bite each other. And that's why, like, they've established the pecking order. They know how to relate to each other. But for human to relate, it's not always the same. And we don't learn as quickly. And I mean, because we're not birds. And so we have to learn sort of like their body language and their language, period. So that is how you would safely watch and make sure and add. As far as the cage size goes, because when you add one more bird, your cage doesn't stay the same. Whatever the cage measurements are for one bird, when you add another bird of the same species, your cage gets bigger. If you add a third bird, your cage gets bigger again. And the person asking, I think the cage was like around 3 feet by 2 feet, which is about what this is. Yes, I think that would be fine. If you can do, and they said, or we can do like wider, but not as high. Right now, because I'm sitting here, they're taking advantage of the height. There are some species like Parrotlets who will be at a couple different levels, although they're usually above the middle. But they'll take advantage of the height. Like if I put their breakfast dish at the bottom, they will go down. So they'll use that. But generally speaking, as long as the cage is at least about double their wingspan in height, then you're better off going wide. So wide and not as tall is better than tall, but not as wide. Hi, baby. Can you say hi, baby, for the camera? Say hi, baby. Say hi, baby. And that would be I would, but we're on camera. So, yeah. All right. Thank you for joining me in this blissful video. It's time to feed the African gray babies that I'm babysitting, so I'm off. Thanks for the question. If your parrot is stressed out, make sure to get Tink's must-have parrot relief on parrotbliss.com. Or if you need a cutting board, I'm trying to get the link on. So keep checking back. I've got my new Parrot Bliss glass cutting board. It's so cute. My daughter made the design. I helped her color it in. Very, very cool. It's parrot cupcakes. So sweet. Thank you, and I'll catch you next time.